right, welcome to today's episode of We Are Marketing Happy, a healthcare marketing podcast. My name is Jenny Bristow. I am the host of this fabulous podcast. I'm also the CEO and founder at Hetty and Hop. We're a full service, fully healthcare marketing agency. And I'm very excited today to bring you episode 2 of our 3-part series of AI 101 for healthcare marketers. In our first episode, we talked about how to understand AI, if a person presents it to you, trying to understand and categorize the different kinds of AI at a foundational level to give you a better understanding, and the 6 core platforms that are used most heavily today. What we're going to do in episode 2 is we're actually going to talk about the core tenets, the 6 tenets of using AI in healthcare marketing. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to get buy-in within your internal organization about using these tools. So let's get started. 6 tenets for using AI in healthcare marketing. The first tenet is approach AI results with very heavy skepticism. Even ChatGPT knows it lies sometimes, so it's called a hallucination. All of these platforms are built wanting to please the user, which is you. So if you ask these platforms a question that they don't know the answer to very often, they will lie to you. They will come up with an answer. So you have to really approach all of them with really heavy skepticism. A great example is at Hetty and Hop. Again, we're a full service agency, so we do everything from marketing strategy, messaging, persona work to activation. So big strategy and activation for campaigns to drive patient volumes. A great example of this is on the privacy side, we were digging in and helping one of our new clients be compliant. They were in a state that we hadn't worked with before. So before we called our attorney that we have on retainer for all of our privacy work, we thought, hey, let's see if these platforms can give us a good rundown of the current privacy laws in that state. No, the platforms lied. Specifically, ChatGPT lied. It actually made up a court case, including the name of a court case. So had we not been super diligent in actually fact checking the results, we would have given wildly inaccurate information. And it does this for all sorts of questions. It could do it if you ask it a statistic, if you ask it any information that it cannot easily access. Even the versions that have ready access to go onto the internet to search, if they can't find the answer quickly, they will lie. Now, the percentage of times hallucinations happen are drastically dropping. Every time that these models are updated, hallucination rates decrease. I saw a recent study that for ChatGPT in particular, from the prior model to this model, hallucinations dropped from, it was like a percentage in the 40s down to in the 30s. And you may say, Jenny, but wait, in the 30s is still super high. And yes, it is, which is why we've got to fact check this stuff. So again, number 1 was approach AI results with very heavy skepticism. Number 2, don't use AI output as is. It's not great. It reads like it's AI. So there will be a time and place where AI models are sophisticated enough where they can do full content creation and copywriting for you, but it's just not there yet today. We tested all of the current platforms with the same prompts and have been doing that over the last year to kind of understand the way that they're maturing and the way that the models are shifting, tested different prompts, all of these things. You do not want to make any of your users feel as though AI is talking to them. So we'll talk about some ways that you can use AI to complement your content marketing program through thought partnership, brainstorming, assumption checking, but we're not going to use the output as is. And number 3 is do not have AI create marketing deliverables. So a couple of reasons, but the biggest takeaway is it's a direct liability to your employer or your brand. There's 4 reasons why. First, legality. I mentioned this in the first episode when I went through all of the different tools, but ChatGPT is actively being sued because they trained the model using a lot of content where the creator of the content was not given, they did not give permission and they were not compensated. So imagine if ChatGPT, next year ends up settling this lawsuit or going all the way through the courts and then being fined, say, $2 billion. How do we know that's not going to roll downstream and anybody who used some certain outputs of ChatGPT are going to be financially liable? We don't know that. And so we have to be really careful and understand that using it exactly as is to create a marketing deliverable can be a legal liability. We also are going to bring up hallucinations again. Accuracy. We don't know that it's accurate, right? We're not going to trust it more than we trust our own ability to create content or strategy work. And so that's important. Bias. AI tools can learn bias from the data and training that it is interacting with. So you want to make sure that you're really careful in the way that you prompt. Even the words that you use may be creating bias in the results that you're receiving. So we have to be really aware of that, and not using deliverables as is to publish content out on behalf of our brand can protect you from that. And then fourth, attribution and authoring, along with the aforementioned legal issues. If these tools are used to create things that are put into production, there could be an issue. For example, let's say you're doing a brand refresh and you're wanting to come up with a specific tagline. You ask Gemini, for example, to come up with a variety of taglines for you, and one feels so good. It is so awesome. And you launch it. A week later, you find out that's one of your top competitors' taglines. No wonder it sounded so good. So again, you cannot take things at surface value. So we're not going to have it create marketing deliverables for us. The fourth tenet is to be very clear in your ask. So there's actually a prompting structure called Rizen, Rizen, that my friend Chris Boyd forwarded along to me because I had just kind of been creating all of these prompting structures myself. And he goes, there's a thing called Rizen, right? Like, oh, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I didn't. I appreciate you. But whenever you're actually creating a prompt or typing in something to ask the AI model to do something for you, it's called a prompt. You want to give it clear directions by asking it to play a role, giving it context, using specific language, asking for multiple versions, asking for it to cite sources. Sometimes a prompt or a request can be 2 pages long. So prompting is truly an art form today. Now, will prompting be important in this time in 2025? Probably not. I think back to when, again, the internet was first coming online in the mid 90s, late 90s. I taught myself, I was in 7th grade in 1997. I taught myself how to hand code websites using HTML and JavaScript. And I started a web development business, and I built lots of websites in my local community for businesses, schools, and churches. It was really important to know HTML and other coding languages at that point. Today, you can stand up a website using Squarespace and not have any idea about what the code looks like on the back end. Now, is there still a profession where understanding coding, then it's super important? Of course there is. But again, we're talking about like the average marketer and if you need that skill set. I strongly still recommend that if you're interested in becoming proficient, you should understand prompting and prompt engineering. There are a couple of different sources I would recommend. Coursera has some great courses around prompt engineering specialization. Udemy has a session called Master AI with Prompt Engineering. It's $65, so super affordable. And then LinkedIn Learning has lots of new sources. I do know that they run specials from time to time. If you're a new user, maybe your employer already has the ability for you to do LinkedIn Learning courses. Check it out. Otherwise, they still are really affordable to go through them. It is really important to understand it again now. And I still think it's going to be important in the future as these models get better and better at kind of like guiding the user where we need to go. We may not need to know exactly what a prompt should look like at that level of granularity, but it still helps your brain understand what's happening behind the scenes. So it's still a great tool or a good thing to learn. Number 5, this is why I love Perplexity, but also why I think maybe Perplexity may not be around much longer, because you can do this for all the models. You just have to remember. Always tell within your prompt for the platform to cite its sources. So you can ask the platform to give you its confidence level in its answer, and then also ask it to provide sources and citations for any information it included in the results. So again, Perplexity does this automatically, but all the other platforms, you can just include that at the end of the prompt, and it's really fabulous. And then number 6, remember, keep privacy a priority. We absolutely have to keep remembering that any information you put within these platforms, imagine it going on a billboard outside of your organization. And if you're comfortable with that, by all means, move forward with it. The last thing I want to touch on is building consensus within your organization. So, one of the reasons that we created these 6 tenets is to give our clients and then also just people in the healthcare marketing community a starting point to have these internal conversations. Just like in the privacy world, if you go to your legal and compliance teams and say, hey, here's what we've been doing with marketing, here's the diligence we've been doing, here's the research and the education we've been doing, let's have a conversation to get aligned. It's a much more mutually respectful situation than if you go to them and say, hey, will you do all this privacy stuff for me? So let's treat AI the same way. Let's do the legwork. Let's understand some initial starting points of how we may want to use it within our organization. Let's help come up with some rules of what we want to see happen within our marketing team and the usage within our team and organization. And feel free to use these 6 tenets as a starting point. Add to it, modify it, whatever you need to do. But these are some great guardrails as you're thinking about rolling it out and implementing it across your team. So, thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope episode 2 of our 3-part series of AI 101 for healthcare marketers was helpful. Next week, we're going to cover some actual prompts. We're going to dig in and actually look at some specific queries you can type in with some real use cases. So, when you're listening next week, be sure to have me in one ear with your laptop pulled up in front of you because it's meant to be an interactive session where you can get hands on and really build your confidence and starting to use some of these platforms. With that, have a fabulous rest of your day. And we can't wait to see you next week on that episode of We Are Marketing Happy. Cheers.